The Russell Howard Hour, Series 3, returns to Sky 1 tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Yes.
We can't talk about it because you've not done it yet.
Did it last night.
Oh, you did it last night? Sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
He's done it. He has done it. We can talk about it.
Done it, recorded.
Okay, I thought it was tonight. Oh, sorry. I was sorry. I apologise. Thousand apologies. Okay, so what? How good is it? The first.
It's all right, yeah, it's banging. Just loads of jokes about the election, you know? As if
Okay.
people aren't bored about that already. But yeah, it's banging.
Floppy Johnson finally gets an election. My favourite headline.
Oh, really?
Yes. What do you say about it? What kind of things?
What do I say?
Yeah.
I talk about the paucity of leadership on offer,
Yes.
and I unite the crowd through our contempt for them all.
Right, but you can't be too predictable because there's too much low hanging fruit as far as gags is concerned.
Sure,
So you've
yeah.
got to go higher up the tree.
Well, you have to try and get to
Where'd you go?
a feeling of how we feel. How do we all feel?
Yeah,
and it is that kind of like, what do you choose? You know, someone who's going to smash it, someone who will drop it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness!
Do you know what I mean?
The smash or the drop.
Sweaty Malfoy or Dying Dobby.
Oh, but there are in-betweenies. Do you talk about the in-betweenies or not?
We'll chat about all the in-betweenies, yeah.
Are in-betweenies as funny as the polar opposites?
But you sometimes have to explain the in-betweenies
Right.
to the outsiders.
Okay.
Not everyone knows. I find it fascinating. So, it's brilliant. To be a comic and to talk about an election's great.
So that's what comes from you guys. So from the content providers in the Russell Howard Hour.
Me and the boys, yeah.
But how
and,
did you
and the lady.
How did you feel? Because you conducting the orchestra, which is the audience, indeed.
Yeah.
And how did you feel they felt about? Because you are leading them, I suppose. But was there a feeling coming back from them anyhow to you?
Yeah, they were laughing. And
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Did you have a sense of what they thought about what's going on?
I think they're just really interested. I think, there's so much news and there's so much fascination in the world and the way in which we receive information that it just makes it's such a brilliant time to be a stand-up. You can talk about anything, and people are engaged. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Is it re-engage? I mean, you've never disengaged from what you do. You've always been grateful. You've always been present.
I love stand-up, but it's that interesting thing. Like the interview you did with Billy Connolly the other day.
Yeah.
Someone like Billy is such a reminder to any stand-up that you can just keep going and growing and evolving. And someone like George Carlin, I watched all of George Carlin's specials about a month ago, and it blew my mind when you see this kind of incredible. I'd never seen any of his stuff before, so you can always be inspired.
Well, there's always things to observe, so why stop observing? I suppose.
And I've got quite a few mates who are musicians, and I'm kind of obsessed with. This has got quite deep already, but I'm obsessed with kind of sort of different creative processes.
Right.
I'm so envious of musicians because they get to sit in a room, create their music, and then take it to the audience. Whereas a comic, you have to create it with the crowd. So it's a completely different vibe that you're sort of like trying jokes out, and then it eventually sort of crystallizes into the finished thing. But you would never just sit in your room and then bring it to the crowd.
Yeah.
The crowd, they essentially make you funny. It's wonderful.
That's a lovely way of looking at it. I was reading Howard Stern's latest book a couple of days ago, and in it, but basically he chronicles lots of the interviews he's done, and he puts them under headings because it's so organised what he does.
Is he?
Yeah, well, yeah, and so he says so one chapter is religion, and then it's just all the verbatim transcripts of any time he's talked about anybody who's well known or highly regarded or profound in any way whatsoever about religion. Yeah. And it's all the takes on just that, and then he'll do something else, and it'll be all these things. And he talks about comedy with Steve Martin.
Oh wow!
And Steve Martin said that when he was thinking about being a comedian, and he's very like Jimmy Carr. He's very considered. He's very his craft is almost palpable. It doesn't make it any less impressive. It's unbelievably impressive. But he said when he started comedy, he didn't want to be a rhythmical set up punchline comedian, and so he could do it, and he did do it. And he was good at it. He said, but I didn't like it. He said, there's something wrong with it. So he said what he did was he decided to just talk on tour and let the audience laugh whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
And that would change. He said, and in the end, they ended up laughing all the time.
Well, what's amazing with Steve Martin is that he was playing like 60,000 seaters in America doing balloon animals, like without screens. So it's just like, imagine being that far away, you're just hearing, it's a dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the most kind of popular guy, and then just stopped one day, just didn't do stand-up again, and hasn't done it since.
Didn't do it ever again.
How?
No.
How could you walk away?
Well, he might walk back. I mean, that's the thing.
He hasn't walked back yet.
No, but there's always time. Right, now, so you're going on this tour, this world tour, and we think it might be the biggest ever world tour by a comedian that we've talked to.
Right.
Now, I do believe, who do we have on Ross Noble. Ross comes close,
Ross
doesn't
is
he?
amazing.
Ross is a 3 or 4 continent guy, but you're going to all 5 or 7, depending on how you look at the world.
Yeah.
So when do you... when do you dare, or not dare? Well, I say dare because I'm fearing for you, but you probably don't fear it. When do you decide to cross another border to see if they like what you do? And then once you've crossed enough borders, do you think, well, this is completely universal now? This comedy.
I don't know. It's just that
because you're going to Africa, aren't you? You're going everywhere.
Yeah. But there's this kind of a moment like where I did this like 400-seater in New York, and you can't help but think back to little you when you're 8 years old in the back of Dad's Sierra, and you're watching kind of raindrops go down the window, and you're sort of wondering what will happen to you in this world, and then suddenly you find yourself, as a grown man doing a comedy night in New York, and it's just so wildly exciting that it just blows your mind. So I'm kind of very much into, let's give it a go, rather than, I'm sort of driven, I write through fear, because, oh, God, I've got to create a show. But then when you have moments like that, and you're kind of doing gigging like Washington or Mumbai or like Australia, it's so cool to do a gig in Stockholm, and to be able to travel and experience the day and then talk about it. What's odd about it is sometimes things that you think are going to be really funny I was in Finland and I was eating some chips, and this pigeon flew down, right, to try and get this guy's chips, and the guy grabbed the pigeon in midair and just went, "Hey!" and then threw the bird away. So I spoke about this in the evening at the gig, and the whole crowd were utterly silent. Well, this is what you do. If a pigeon comes to attack, you grab hold of it and you throw it away. And it was so funny in that moment, because I knew if we were talking about this in England, everyone would be like, bloody hell, we're weird. What, some bloke grabbed a pigeon? Oh, my God. Have you heard that, Dave? And yet they were stony-faced. Like, why would you not throw it away? What is wrong with you, Englishman?
But they're so right.
So then it became funny because it wasn't funny to them. Do you know what I mean? But it was... So there's always holes within holes if you're kind of willing to just talk and sort of explore stuff, particularly live. It's beautiful.
So when you think it's cool, so when I love that analogy of a New York club, 400-seater club, it's going gangbusters. You're as one, you and the audience and you, and then you think about the 8-year-old and the raindrops dripping down the windscreen. Because I know that moment. We've all had that moment.
We all have it.
You're betting on raindrops because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Will it be the big one on the left or the small one on the right?
It's amazing, isn't it? This sort of inventiveness of being bored as a child. Like we used to wash our dad's car, and then the suds would kind of wash down into the drain in the street, and then me, my brother and my sister would pick which one of the suds would get to the drain first. That was a game. Like literally, right, I'm having that one. Oh Christ, I was going to go for him. He looks nice and suddy. And then you'd be there for 5 minutes. Like we used to play this other game where after fireworks night, all the kids around our street would ride around and see who collect the most rockets. Yeah. And that was the whole day.
It's the best thing in the world.
But tidying up, essentially.
It's
just tricked, but like going, look, I got 7 rockets.
That's so cool. Doing the one was out of a job at the same time. So you talked about fear there, and then you talk about fear, and you think, okay, well, feel the fear, carry on, and then you do, and then Stockholm's good, and New York's good, and suddenly you find you're playing Africa and China as well. Does the fear always come back at some point?
Yeah, but it's always that thing of like, will you be able to write a show? So I started writing the show in April. And I was just doing gigs in London every night, and those are the really brutal kind of moments where you're just there with a piece of paper before you go on, try that.
It is as simple as that.
Yeah.
And what does your piece of paper look like?
It's just sort of like there'll be scrawling, so it would say, I don't know, there'd be a picture of like wedding, gay marriage, Ted Bundy. And, I mean, if anyone found it, it would just be the ramblings of a lunatic. But that's the same as every comic, you would sort of look at it with just sort of like cheese, gorillas. It's just, but it all makes sense.
There are pictures on there.
There's pictures, there's drawings.
See, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, the picture,
lots of arrows.
Yeah, I've only just about a year I've been mapping. And it just makes everything so much more interesting from the off.
My dad's a mapper. My dad is one of these blokes that when I was doing maths homework, I used to really struggle with maths as a kid. I'd sort of walk down his hall into his study, and I was like, "Oh, Dad, can you show me how to do this?" And he'd go, "Right, let's do a mind map." And then he would sort of take it from like long division and go, "So basically, what calculus is?" And I'm like 12. And he's trying to explain calculus to me.
Did it help?
No, not in any way. So then I go in with this exemplary homework that has calculus.
Nothing to do with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Zero to do with Russell. Right, the Russell Howard series, the Russell Howard Hour, Series 3 returns to Sky One tomorrow at 10 p.m. And it was from a comedy point of view. Biggest and best ever launch for Series 1 and Series 2.
Banging,
yeah, and we have Thursday night now as comedy night. So you follow Alan Carr as well, don't you?
Yeah. What a person to follow.
He was on yesterday. He was so people love. I didn't know he got married in Adele's garden.
He did, yeah.
Were you there?
I wasn't there, no, but he told me about it. He's a lovely fella.
Well, he tells everybody about it, and this is, but I don't want to talk about it. But and Adele sang the songs at his wedding, sang the first dance at the Do.
Really?
What a laugh!
Well, that is impressive.
Come on. And he's going on tour, and a bit of his tour is about that as well. But he's on before you with There's Something About Movies tomorrow at 9 o'clock on Sky One, and you're on from 10. Now, we're going to play Best Song in the World Ever Wednesday, chosen by Russell himself here.
We're talking of weddings as well. This was my first dance.
Okay, let's talk about, let's play this. Wolfman, Pete Doherty, For Lovers, and after this, one of the most annoying marathon stories we've ever heard.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.